I'm Hugh Collingbourne, Director of Technology with SapphireSteel software. In this video I'll explain how to use interactive snippets in your ActionScript projects using Amethyst, our Visual Studio IDE for the Adobe Flash platform, and how to create your own snippets using our snippet editor. Snippets are blocks of code that auto-expand when you enter a shortcut. For example, here I've entered the keyword for, and I could carry on typing the for loop in the longhand way. But there's a better way of doing that. Look what happens if I press the tab key just after the for keyword. The whole loop expands. The code expands automatically. Now notice these areas with highlights. These are code replacement points. They have descriptive tooltips when I hover my mouse over them, and I can tab from one to the other and edit them. If I edit an identifier that occurs elsewhere in the snippet, as the I does, watch what happens. Now I'm going to change I into my value, and when I tab to accept it, every other occurrence of I in the snippet changes to the same edited identifier. When I finished, I press enter, and my cursor is placed in an appropriate point inside the auto-generated snippet code. Now the for snippet is one of a number of snippets provided with Amethyst. Here's another one, function. I press function, tab, and it auto-expands. And if you like, you can create your own custom snippets from scratch. To do that, we provide a snippet editor that you can launch from the Amethyst menu. Now this is the for snippet seen inside the snippet editor. The code of the snippet is entered here, down at the bottom, in this little editor box. The editable text replacement points are listed as IDs between pairs of $signs. And up here we've entered the shortcut. That's the text that you need to enter into Visual Studio and which will trigger the snippet expansion when you press the tab key. Now let's see how to create a snippet from scratch. First, we'll select File, New. And we'll suppose now that you want to create a property comprising a private variable with a getter-accessor function. Essentially, you will need two repeating elements in this property snippet to show its name and its type. And we'll save these in the form of reusable IDs. Now I create a reusable ID by clicking the Create New ID button and popping up this dialog box. I'm entering the ID property name, and its default value will be the same, the property name, and the tooltip. That's what is displayed when you hover over the replacement point in the code editor, and I save it. Now I'll create a second ID, which I'm going to call a type. This time though, I want the default value to be object. That means that if the text is not changed by the user, object will be auto-generated as the class of the property. And again, I enter a tooltip and I save it for reuse. And now I'm ready to enter the code of the snippet itself. So I go down into the editor part and I enter private var underscore, and now I right click and I select property name, which is one of the IDs I just created, and it inserts the dollars around it, colon, and again I've done it with the type ID which I just created. Carry on writing the snippet, and you'll see that there are several points in the snippet where the IDs are repeated. So that has the effect when the user edits, for example, the property name to some other property, each ID, each replacement point, will automatically be given the new text that's been created by the user. So finish off writing the snippet, and finally from the right click menu I put in end. That's where the cursor will end when the snippet has been completed. And I'll give the snippet a name, a title which is displayed in the snippet list if I display that in Visual Studio, and a shortcut which is the shortcut I need to enter for tab expansion. I select the ActionScript as the language type, and I now can save it to my snippet directory, or if you want to set up a different snippet directory from the standard, you can configure that too. If you want to add a new snippet directory to Visual Studio, you can do so using its code snippet manager. Now let's try out the snippet I just created. First I enter the text get, and then of course press the Tab key. Now I'm ready to edit the text as before. Alternatively, you can also enter snippets by right-clicking in Visual Studio and selecting from the list Insert Snippet, and you'll see one or more snippet directories. Then you just pick the snippet and off you go. For more information on snippets and Snipe the Snippet Editor, refer to the user manual, which is supplied in PDF format with Amethyst. Snippets are just one of the many smart code and IntelliSense features in Amethyst Professional. For more information, visit the SapphireSteel software website.